Siyanibingelela nonke emakhaya. Trusting you're all well kept in the Lord. Let's start. This is another episode of our Reset Unshakable. And I'm trying to see again. I do have a panel here to Mr. Ray Cele ngapha eqeleni, Mrs. Ruth Cele, Mr. Sipho Nzuza ngapha on my left and on my right. Sino baba Tammy Sibego. Siphinde on the far right ngampela sibe no Mr. Lumkile Mtolo. We had a great time last week isikhuluma as business people sifundisana sisiza abazalwana basemakhaya, people who are aspiring to be in business and people also who are in business, and nalabo basemakhaya who have been in business kodwa ababone ngazuthi their businesses will no longer function in this area. Sikhulumile kakhulu sakhuluma about innovation, quoting from the Bible encwadini Matthew 5. Sikhuluma nga uJesu mhlazana kukhona insizwa zafika kuyena, they open up the roof of a certain house bamehlisa, and leyo nto kuthina it sparked some innovation ukuthi in this day and age at this time wonke umuntu uyadingakala ukuthi whatever you've been doing or you want to do kumele ube ne innovation is serious this time around. So we spoke about what it requires from you to be a business person, ukuthi mhlawumbe akudinga ukuthi uzube ne-CK noma amaphepha registration acacile athembisayo, but you can do business nanoma yiphi indlela ongakhuluma ngayo. I was even reminded of a topic we spoke about a few weeks back. Sikhuluma ngokuthi kunabantu abanye sithi masibabuka sithi laba bawosomathuba. Kukhona nabanye sithi no lona mhlambe business person ophelele, but futhi I remember ubabondosi besho ukuthi ungabe usomathuba isikhathi eside kodwa kwesinye isikhathi you need to set up a program of whereby you build wealth for generations and generations. So sikuleso sikhathi ke bazalwane ukuthi sizosizana, sizokhuluma, sizofundisana. Mhlambe kulesi sikhathi lesi ngicela ukudlulisela ku Mrs. Ruth Cele. Mhlambe nje asinike a little background of what she does and also mhlambe what sparked the entrepreneurship spirit kuyena. Briefly nje, over to you.
Ngiyabingelela babukeli once again. uRuth Cele started off as a teacher. I'm a qualified teacher by profession, ngafundisa, and then I realized ukuthi that's my passion, because ekukhuleni kwami nje ngisamncane kwakuze kuthiwe ngeke ngibe nazo izingane ngendlela engiyithanda ngazo izingane, ukuthi ngihlale nazo ngifundise izinto, ngidlale nazo ngifundise ukudlala nani. And then when I started teaching, I realized ukuthi there's a lot of opportunities, and nokuthi ukuze abantu bakithi bakhule, we need to feed them with information, and they must take that information and use it. Gathi mase nguthisha ngabona ukuthi okay, let me just carry on, ngiqhubeke nokufunda kwayimina ke. Even though ngiqhubeka ngifundisa izingane nama ngiqhubeke ngifunde, I realized ukuthi mase ngiqala ibusiness after that which needed a lot of isibindi. Bahlale bengibuza abanye sasifundisa nabo ukuthi kodwa wasithatha phi isibindi ngoba bona wawuyithulela, number 1, number 2, usithathe phi isibindi sokuthi ke uphumeke kwa teaching ushiya salary ekhona every month uhambe manje uyoqala phansi ungabi na salary uyoholela abanye abantu wena ugcine ngesikwesinye isikhathi ungaholili. It all boils down to ukuthi ipassion yokuthi ngifuna ukubona abanye abantu bekhula beba izinto beyisebenzisa futhi information engibanika yona ukuthi bakhulise. Ngaqala ibusiness le cleaning, ngal-eda kuyona icleaning ithi ikhona, nga-eda ne-training ukuthi ukuze abantu ba-clean kule standard engisifunayo esifunwa ama-clients white collar, kufuna laba i-training bahlale benayo ihlale ivuselelwa in such a way that i-training nje enkulu ebengiyenza ibikunikeza u3 years utraina ukuclean, cleaning and hygiene for 3 years. Thatha abantu bangaphandle ba-traine bese beba ne-certificate, athi umuntu uyofuna umsebenzi uzoyithola umsebenzi because usenesicutshwana sephepha eshoyo ukuthi mina ngifundile ngiyakwazi ukwenza ukuthi nokuthi.
In fact ngifundisa into angayesho ngoba phela unkosikazi wami usefonelwa abantu from Johannesburg bathi we know ukuthi in your database we have qualified cleaners.
Yeah.
Can you send a person azo cleaner emzini wami? You know, useqale manje angizazi uyibiza sifuna siformalize into something. It's a informal.
Yeah.
But lento esikhuluma ngayo, we'll have to now do it into a formal structure. Ufonela business people baseGoli abanemezemkhulu bathi we know ukuthi in your database you've trained people who are now qualified abanecertificate. Can you provide us with those people?
Mhlawumbe omunye azacela athi cela umsala usumenzisa ne driver's license ukuze mayifika
Wow.
la ngikwazi nokumthuma nasesitolo
Wow.
because I need somebody engizomthemba. So that means I have to train them with service delivery on everything. Ukuthi mase fikile lapha angafani necleaner azofica lithole elikhona ekhaya njengamanje mhlawumbe lona eligadi ingane. Yena uzothi abe cleaner enza izinto ezi high profile mhlawumbe check izinto zaselondolo ukuthi zi right ayinama shirt in a certain way aphinda ahamba collector employer wakhe airport akwazi ahamba uthenga izinto ezithile for uchef or anything like that.
In fact, it's next level.
That's
Housekeepers.
I'm picking up now the relationship.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
picking up the relationship in this whole thing because the person in Joburg is now trusting this brand and is creating a relationship with this person. You can let this person in my house. Yes, but hey, yeah, I can come back from this.
In fact, it's next level, and in fact, in some countries, they've been doing izinto ezikanjalo. I remember Ubaba at some point where he had been to the US. So when he had spent isikhathi sakhe komunye umzalwane thizeni obenendle enkulu. Uthi housekeeper yakhona bekuyiyona umuntu bababiza ngo-housekeeper bona. Kuyena ocleana indlu emva kalokho kube uyena ophuma ngemoto ahamba yolanda iy'ngane zonke ayiqoqa abuye ezekhaya abuye check-e nama-homeworks. So what you're talking about right now is next level housekeepers.
Yeah.
Hayi lokho esikujwayele. Okuncane. And innovation ngempela Mamdosi, and ayiqhubeka even more and more. Mhlawumbe just to hand it over to you Makaya. Kancane now just to give us a little testimony. We know we've had you on the program before. Kungenza ukuthi khona ohlezi ekhaya oqalayo uyibuka namhlanje.
But ngizoza housekeepers a business. Again phinde ngibabingelela abazalwane sengingene ngewindi. Ngikhuluma izinto zankosikazi la ze cleaning and housekeeping. Mina I am a qualified mechanical engineer by profession. But what I'm doing now is completely different than what I went to school, studied and qualified for. I said recently I've just resigned as a chairperson of construction sector, which is more civil, built environment type related. So I am now in the business and I'm mainly focusing with built environment. Recently, we bought a business which has been existent for 130 years called Greneka LTA. We closed that business, that transaction last year, November, and then again in December we bought a section of Greneka again, which is Greneka Mechanical and Electrical M&E. We closed that deal last year, December. In a couple of days ago, the 1st of July, we also bought a third business, Ugel. It's also a part of Avenge, a listed entity. It's called Ground Engineering. We bought that business. It was effective on the 1st of July 2020.
Wow.
Again, during the time of COVID, the grace of God, we were able to close the deal. So it's another third transaction that has happened, and I am moving into that business to be an MD of the business. In fact, I have moved in already as the MD of that business as of the 1st of July to run. It's another big business, a multi-million rand business. We closed the deal. The deal is secured. We are moving in. God is good during these times, COVID, and God is, again, we were fearless and innovative. I was reminded we had a meeting in the building outside where we started when Ubamang started introducing the Greneka LTA. It's a big business in existence for 130 years with a staff complement of around 5,000. So at that time, Umawul Bega, we were like grasshoppers, you know, and it was a giant, and you know, we were grasshoppers. But we did not look at ourselves as grasshoppers. We were fearless, and we were innovative. Today, we own the business with a history of 130 years, with the staff complement of around 5,000. We own the business, and this one that we've just secured again, it's also a big business. Not as big as Greneka, but it's also a big business. Again, we fearless during isikhathi la umuntu ethi kule COVID zonke izinto azikho abantu abanamali, but we secured the business. By the grace of God, we are in the business. Ngiyabonga mfundisi.
Yeah.
No, we are siyambonga khulunkulu lapho. Angeke ngithi no ngithi yes. Siyambonga uNkulunkulu ngalapho. Because bazalwane, when we speak about or talk about business, there's always a mistake that we make. Sifuna ukumkhipha uNkulunkulu kulona. Sithi no, now my ethics kodwa it is important ukuthi even if you are running a business, but you run it the godly way.
Yeah.
Even if you are doing business, ekugcineni uyazi ukuthi uNkulunkulu is with you in that business. Yes, he gives us the ability ukuthi sikwazi ukulisebenza. There's a few things we want to talk about. Babndosi, there's a point that you mentioned sometimes sikusakhuluma nawe bengicela nje singene kulona njengamanje.
The point that I wanted ukwalithinta kancane uMtolo ethi one thing that we don't talk about, we always paint this beautiful picture about us in business, you know, relationships. Kumnandi. One thing esingayisho, it is how often we fail.
Yeah.
And what keeps us njengamanje, even though we failed. So, Sehlele Makai, I think one thing that that drives us, is a passion. Now, in business, there is no quitting. There is no one who has written a book on how to quit. You cannot go into a shop and say, I want to buy a book on how to quit. You will never find it. But you will find a book on how not to quit. So when you are in business, quitting is not an option.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times I have failed more than I can remember in business. I've lost count of how many times I failed in business. But I've never sat down and say, hey, recently, boxer, and I shout, I quit boxing. I quit. You know, alaziwa namhlanje, laziwa ngokuthi la quit. Uma uyibuka la video uzohleka ukuthi awu bamshalo baba, bamshalo I quit boxing. It's unfair. Boxing is unfair. I quit. But we are not there. In business, quitting is not an option. You cannot ukufeyila kwibusiness angabi into osuzoyiphatha ke manje uhambe naye ukuthi ngayeka because ngafeyila. No, quitting is not an option. In business, you just put the quitting out and focus on. Doesn't matter how many times. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. Quitting is not an option in business.
Mhlambe Makhaya, just to ufaka umunye umbuzo. When you came to KCC, how many years had you been in business at those cards?
You know, 2000 November 25. That was the day when IT boss yami nginikeza i-pay slip, nami ngimnikeza i-resignation letter. Saphambana kanje in the year 2000 November 25. That was the day when I resigned, and everything, it was linked to my connections. I built up a lot of connections in Saga Engine Refinery. You know, I Guy Dwebs Sandakshata, Nonkoskas, because we got married in 1999. So 2000, November 25, ngiya resign. Lapho ngidweba ama connections ngiwabeke. Ngathi mangiresign because ama connections I linked no engine aphela. I had to move from whatever that I had at that time, Ngisaka engine, back to zero. In fact, not even to zero, to minus.
Minus
Because
zero.
I was living from my wife at that time. When I came to KCC it was in 2002, when we joined KCC, I was down and out. So from 2000 up to 2002, yonke connection enginayo yangishiya ngasala ngingena lutho, ngino minus. But God has been good.
Mhlambe mfundisi ke ngikufakazela ukusho ubaba uNdusi. When I left Durban municipality, kwakunabantu okuthiwa bani sokwenza ukuthi wena sokwenza ukuthi nawe sokwenza ukuthi. Kodwa namhlanje ngitshela ukuthi not even one okwenzeka. So iadvice masuba ucabanga ukwenza something, ichance yokuthi labantu obathembile bakusize mancane.
Baba Ndosi sisakhuluma mfundisi. Akayimention indaba ukuthi khona into engayifunda kuyena. As he was talking about being down, ngakhumbula ngidriver siqhamuka ngasePinetown naye eseTaxini ngithi akaphuma eTaxini. But he did not abandon coming to church. We did confident. Why lo muntu, I mean njengamanje if somebody told Baba Ndosi coming, but I can remember that person ingqoshi iza ekwamasho ephakathi engqoshini nomndeni wakhe. You must remember this person used to come to church with the car. Now he's coming to church with his family in a taxi. And the reward is evidence. So, mhlambe sidinga unika igama lonto le. Funeka sithole igama le desisho manje. For ukuthi size umuntu osekhaya. Ngoba sisiya ngathi siyathi fearless. Yes.
Resilience.
Yebo. So we need resilience there.
Yeah. I think emlaleli nawo ohlezi ekhaya, we are having these discussions ukuze kusizakale wonke umuntu ukuthi noma ngabe wena isituation yakho noma ngabe isimo sakho noma konke okula phambi kwakho ngathi uthi njengamanje ayikho inqubekela phambili omhlambe ngathi uthi cha bakhuluma ngokuba low mina I'm below kuba low uba uNdosi uyasho ukuthi in fact he moved from there wire ku -0. You know, so kunina lonke bazalwane noma ungayena umzalwane mhlambe ungenile kwiprogram uvuna ukuzwa nje likhona ithuba. Mr Mtola ngazi kuphi ongakubeka nje now just to encourage somebody.
No, mfundisi. Uthe asithi yes mfundisi. Yes mfundisi. No, it happens ukuthi you plan a move, you think the grass is greener on the other side, and with all your plans in place, and then you find out no, actually there's nothing, there's no water, the soil is bad. But I always say, and if you go back to scriptures as well, is that everything that we need to survive and to make it, if we stay, obviously, is within us. So everything that we need is within us. It's really for us to seek the wisdom, what is my next move? Because that's all that is important. You have a few guarantees, Gunkulunkulu, is that it's not going to change. It's going to be the same that it was yesterday, tomorrow. And the other thing that is for sure, and I'm sure Baba Ndosi will attest to this, is that the sun will rise tomorrow.
Yeah.
The sun will rise tomorrow. So what is your next move? No matter how terrible your situation is, what's your next move when when the sun gets up tomorrow. So that's what me and I would say to umuntu who's feeling down and out is that I know it sounds cliche or Mrs. Kuluma lana mawusibheka thina ukuthi no kulula bona ukuthi basho kanjalo because uyababona ukuthi bakuphi na izinto abakhuluma ngazo, but the reality is aqala ngawe, and kungaqali ngawe nje futhi it can be worse than where you are. Khona omunye umuntu who's actually thinking of taking their lives right now, and what you're trying to say is that it's if you do that, then you're ending any other opportunity to rise. And to rise, you will rise. It's within you. And when kuphela ungayikhipha lapho futhi, you know. So to rise, you will rise. Yeah.
Mhlawumbe mfundisi uku-act elinye iphuzu ukuthi once you are in business, doesn't matter how many times you fail and you contemplate quitting. Enye into engifuna ukuyi-add is once you are in business, you can't have an idle mind. Idle mind is not allowed in business. Ukuthi ngizoke ngihlale nje. You know, Mfundisi spoke about being innovative. Now, you can't have an innovative person in an idle mind. Mind that is doing nothing. You know, you get into that position of being idle, most of you have already achieved. Once you figure out this point out, no, now I have saying right, you idle. And it's dangerous in business if you have an idle mind. You are about once you are fairly positioned idle, be careful in business.
No. Siyabonga kakhulu. Ngifikelwa I wouldn't say it's a question, but kunomuntu mhlawumbe ohleze ekhaya. It's not a question. Ohleze ekhaya mhlawumbe. I know you've said this before. Othi yena ayi ngeke ibhizinisi nje mina ngisoze ngaliqala. Ngoba ngisaba lento yokuwa. Because it's a common thing esho wonke umuntu ukuthi hayi phela ibhizinisi liyawa, hey angifuni ukuwa mina ukumbona usibanibani. Now you've mentioned ukuthi in business kwesisikhathi you fail, kwesisikhathi kubuye kulunge. What I know right now ukuthi njengamanje ayisekho icomfort kunoma ubani. Ama companies amanye nje ba evaliwe lana, so it means ukuthi ayisekho lento yokusho hayi mina ngingcono nje ngisebenza ngoba umsebenzi wami ngeke uphele. Yabona. Akazi kuphe ninga advisor umuntu okhuluma ngokuthi yena no mhlawumbe comfortable la ekhona. We understand now there's no such thing as comfort. Ukuthi permanent wena. Secondly, ukhuluma nomuntu othi ngeke mina ngangena kwibusiness ngoba ngiyasaba ukuwa.
Mfundisi lento eshoyo I think sike sathi ukuthinta kancane kuyona. Sabala inkampani enkukhu edumile. Sabala ama companies amabhanoyi amakhulu adumile. Ukuthi lawo bantu labo manje most of them mhlawumbe bazophela umsebenzi. Sabala ukuthi labantu labo banema companies amakhulu abekade khona siwaziyo enkukhu lezo, but basafarishile futhi nabo. So I keep business safarisha, which goes back to the point of being fearless, going to business fearless and having the passion. Because if you have those two things, now you're not gonna fear to fail because you know what you can wake up and go. And the idea of killing yourself is not an option because you're out of competition, you're out of challenge. So therefore, the fear overtook you and then you gave up. So you can't give up. You must have the passion. You must be fearless. That's what I think is very important for you when you go to business. Because if you fail now, you must not. If I fail, I can wake up and still continue.
The sun will rise again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Umshazi esakhuluma kufika kumina ukuthi there's a thin line between fearless and careless. There's a very thin line between a person or fearless nomuntu careless. Njengoba sikhuluma ukuthi quitting is not an option. Khona ozomana be careless. Enze noma kanjani bese uthi hayi verse noma ngingafela uzophinde ngivuke. So don't be careless in being fearless. You know. Yeah, be fearless but don't be careless.
Ungayi na attitude ukuthi vele ngisazi wangiphinde ngivuke.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we will be closing our program soon. Sizoyivala. Kodwa singakayivali ngiyafisa each and every individual just to say something kumuntu olalele ekhaya. Noma yini esenhlizweni yakho, some encouragement and umnikeza amandla ngaqala kuwena Makhaya.
I think I'm going to touch again what I've just mentioned now. In what our opening point was, Lamadoda, they were innovative. Umshaz then said they were fearless. So, and again, we've just latched on Uti. We kept on talking about the smaller things in this session. Sikhuluma ngokuthi umuntu angaqala enze business lamagwinya. You know, we are saying, don't, for now, ungayisabi le nto oyicabangayo. You can start small. You can start as informal as you can. You don't need a PTY Ltd ukudayisa amagwinya. Again, I'm referring to amagwinya because we want to be as practical as possible. You can start small. Ungazasikhuluma ngo-Green Acre abanamasebenzi about 5,000 and say ngeke ngifike lapha. No. Not as qalanga lapha, yeah. We started small. Start small and start as informal as you can, but be fearless and not careless.
I think the most fearful thing in starting a business is to start. Once you come across that hurdle, you qala, it happens because usuke nawe unale ntshisekelo yokuthi okay ngifuna ukuqhubekela lapha osingenze lokhu ngesikhathi ulungisa one problem, one hurdle at a time. That's where you start to grow. Otherwise, if you don't start, it's always very difficult. So start.
Yeah, wow. You know, Mhlezi, Mfundisi, there's nobody who's gonna tap you at the back in business. In business, you must have the self-motivation to wake up at 5 o'clock and do it. It's not like somebody who's been chased by is cut some part. When part when we sipho hey no baba wayitshela ukusho njalo. Athe mzimela you know I self. So for me, self-motivation, because mase uqalile lento yakho kufanele le magwinya akho siwaqala kufanele uvuke ekseni ngo4 uqove lo flower. And then you must have a direction with how you're going to get to a customer. So self-motivation is very important. Ulapha ekhaya une idea umama uthi and start, because it's a good idea ucabanga big business yokuthi ufuna ukwenza amagwinya, but mongaqalanga ungavukanga ngoxova flower, there's no business, there's not going to be a customer. So you must start, but also remember masuqalile you must have the self-motivation.
Mina ngizobeka ngamagama kababa. 1, uqale kusiwe umuntu othemba lakhe likumuntu.
Yes.
Siqale lapho. Number 2, ubaba taught us excellence.
Yeah.
So uma uzoyenza into yenzayo with excellence, it will succeed.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I think it's important to know like you were saying, Fundisi, not everyone is cut out to be in business. Having said that, other businesses are started by situation, like we were saying earlier, from me stories about Nzuzuguti. He was to go and sell amagwinya, and from there he started learning, and then he ended up Kundinwele, which is fine. But for goodness sake, whatever you do, start.
Yes.
You know, if you're doing nothing, just start doing something. We're not promoting that everyone is a business person, but what we're saying is that everyone though deserves to have an income. And it's all within you. So start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Siyabonga kakhulu kina nonke nilalele emakhaya. We trust the Lord that this program has helped you kakhulu, because mawulalele wonke ama speakers wethu bakhuluma izinto ozibonayo eziphambi kwakho, kunezinto ezitrendayo on social media njengamanje kuthiwa ask me how. ubaba wehlalesha ukuthi ungazi ufuna ukuyongena ezitokfeleni ezinto eziningi qala wena uzisibekele wena imali so even nakushiwa abazalwane njengamanje ukuthi qala wena manje and do something ngawe there's a sermon yashumayelo ubaba ngelanga uthi into yamiyeke ukudlala istokfela waphapha ngelanga eksene efuna imali yakhe wadonsa isagila wayemlazi wafika ngiqonqoza ngesagila emlazi ubabevula lapho uthi wadedela nenhlamba nalo uthi after isikhashana umoya engcela ambuza athi wenzani athi umfundisi wonke lo phethe izagila ngqonqoza ezimzini yabantu and the Holy Spirit rebuked him at that moment uthi no hamba wena ufike uzibekele wena imali ubaba umuntu makhuluma nawe no asameni into ukuthi angenzi le nto lena and futhi I can testify le nto abeyisho ukuthi ubedlala istokfela yedwa ekwenza yedwa uNkulunkulu gave him that strategy and samsebenzela njengamanje nje obulalela ekhaya mhlawumbe ubheka istrategy noma sokuthi wenze nani ungabusabuka kakhulu ka left wakho ungabuke ka right wakho kodwa inquire from the Lord ukuthi what business mina can I do njengamanje we have abantu ababona ukuthi kudayiswa ama Friday ekhoneni lomgwaqo la zizobaningi izitolo zama Friday wena kunento unique that you can do engatholakala kuwena makuthiwa uwenza wona la ama Friday kodwa awakho ahluke bakhuluma ngeexcellence abazalwane so let us try ukuthi kukho konke esikwenzayo let us inquire from the Lord ukuthi mina kufanele ngenzeni mase kutshelile kwenze lokho masukwenzile iba neexcellence khona lokho ube nomoya ubabunzuza uthe ube nomoya wani
resilience
ube ne-resilience
yes.
the passion kokwenza
ube fearless yes
ube fearless so let us go out there bazalwane this is your time this is your season njengamanje kusona isikhathi esikusona sokuthi I receive papa I receive isikhathi se-action manje isikhathi se-action sokuthi konke lokho obukusho njengamanje sivala ngalokho ukuthi start uNkulunkulu anibusise lonke emakhaya we love you and God bless you
Amen.